Hey adventurers, and welcome back to another episode of Underdark Cellars. Today we're doing something a little different. Today we're talking about common holiday hazards and how you can avoid them. The whole reason I wanted to do this video is to help you and your family stay safe and healthy through this holiday season and avoid any preventable trips to urgent care or calls to your local fire department. We'll go ahead and get started. All right, first one is girl learns not to use water on grease fire the hard way from ImMadison. No. Do not put out a grease fire with water. So we're gonna chat about how to put out a grease fire. So grease fires or oil fires, a couple things. Do not put hot grease in a trash can. You can use a metal or glass container to put used drippings or grease in to cool before throwing it away. Also, do not overheat any fat or oil for frying. Use a thermometer to gauge the temperature. I just did a video about making donuts at home, and you needed to use a thermometer to see how hot the oil was. It's also really helpful to know the smoke point or the flash point of the oil that you're using. Smoke point means basically at what temperature the oil or the fat or the butter you're using will start to smoke. Some have a higher smoke point than others. So for instance, butter has a lower smoke point than vegetable oil, which has a lower smoke point than peanut oil, which is one of the reasons that a lot of restaurants will fry things in peanut oil, and buying things from restaurants can run the risk of activating a peanut allergy. In the event of a grease fire, put a lid on the pan to smother it. Fire needs a couple things to burn. It needs a fuel source and it needs oxygen. If you cut off the oxygen, it will smother itself out. Now, if that doesn't seem to do it, you can use a dry chemical fire extinguisher. If you don't have an extinguisher, you can pour a box of baking soda onto the grease fire to help smother it out. You can also use salt. Things that you cannot use, do not use, are sugar, flour, and baking powder. They can explode and make the fire worse. According to the Ohio Fire Safety Board, 1 cup of flour or sugar potentially has the explosive powder of 2 sticks of dynamite. So do not use flour, sugar, or baking powder. Ideally, you would just put the lid on top of the pan and turn off the heat and let that take care of itself. Use a dry fire extinguisher. Do not use water on a grease fire. Do not use water on a grease fire. It'll make things a million times worse. Next up, we have turkey dinner goes awry with oven fire. Apparently this happened Thanksgiving of 2022. So this is the reason we're going over this. Oh my gosh. Close the oven. Close the oven. No. Don't blow on it. Close the oven. Close the damn oven. We're gonna chat about this. In the event that something catches on fire in the oven, close the oven. Again, what fire needs to grow is a fuel source and oxygen. So if you close the oven and unplug it, especially if this is an electrical fire or an appliance related issue, if you close the oven door and safely unplug the oven from the wall, you're no longer getting the electrical input to the oven to keep the fire going. And the fire should smother itself out because of the lack of oxygen. Okay, don't do what this man did and keep the oven open. You can use a fire extinguisher, but again, one of the safest things to do is to simply close the oven door and unplug the oven and step away. Depending on what type of oven you have, there can be heating coils on the bottom of the oven. Don't have anything in contact with those. Also make sure that whatever you're using to cook your food in is oven safe. I've seen a lot of videos where people are putting stuff in the oven and they go to take it out. If they put it on something plastic, it's like melted through the oven rack. If it's not heat safe up to a certain temperature, maybe the glass or the ceramic is cracked. Make sure whatever you're using is oven safe, rated to the temperature you need to cook your food. Now we're talking about frying turkeys. I feel like this is a uniquely American thing. Also, I've never had a fried turkey. I feel like there would be a couple of concerns with overcooking, the risk of your turkey turning out really, really dry when you fry it. Let's talk about this. So there are two specific hazards when it comes to deep frying a turkey. So this is specifically why you shouldn't put a frozen turkey in a deep fryer. Okay. So we saw a couple things here. This was demonstrated by the Boiling Springs Fire Department. You remember how we talked about how you don't put out grease fires with water? When oil is really, really hot and you put in water, they're not compatible, right? They're not gonna sit together. So when you have really, really hot oil, it's basically gonna throw that water right back out at you. So when you have a frozen turkey and it's not dry, it's basically going to spit all of that water back out at you. But the problem is it's not just going to spit the water back out, it's going to spit oil out as well, and that oil is flammable. And so when you do this, it overflows like that, it's basically just waiting to be a giant fireball. One of the other big ways that things can go really, really wrong when deep frying a turkey is making sure that container that you fry the turkey in is too full of oil. If you think about middle school science classes, you learn about displacement, where you put like an apple in a bowl of water, that water level is going to rise. When you're doing that with a turkey, make sure that the amount of oil you have in there is only as much as you need to cover the turkey. If you fill it all the way to the top and then put the turkey in, that excess volume is going to get displaced out, and that will go onto the fuel source and you'll see a fireball. So continuing on in this thread of fires, there's also these really cool things that you can install on your oven. Stovetop fire stops. They are range hood fire suppressors. How they work is there's basically a little fuse on the bottom, and if there's a fire on your stove, what it does, and the flames are high enough, the flames will make contact with that little fuse that'll burn all the way through, and it'll cause this fire suppressor to release a powder similar to a fire extinguisher that will smother it completely. All right, we already know that the holidays are prime cold and flu season. If you haven't gotten your flu shots or your COVID boosters, go get them. What are you doing here? But another way that we can prevent people from getting sick is by making sure that we prevent foodborne illnesses and food poisoning. One important thing to know is to wash your hands properly. Make sure that when you are preparing food, cooking the food, you're reheating food, make sure that you're washing your hands before and after so that you are minimizing the spread of bacteria. Poultry, so chicken, turkey, that all needs to be cooked to at least 165 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, I personally recommend having a thermometer, have that set to go off at 165 degrees Fahrenheit. If your turkey is stuffed, that can take longer for the inside to reach that, to reach doneness. Ground meats need to be cooked to 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Technically, the minimum safe temperature for steak is 145 degrees, but desired doneness can vary. I personally prefer my steak on the rare side at 120 to 125 degrees Fahrenheit. Medium rare, 130 to 135. Medium is 140 to 145. Medium well is 150 to 155 degrees Fahrenheit. Well done is 160 to 165 degrees Fahrenheit. And extra well.
What if somebody wants theirs well done?
We ask them politely yet firmly to leave.
Is done at 170 degrees Fahrenheit or over. Pork or ham needs to reach a minimum of 145 degrees Fahrenheit. Fish also need to be cooked to 145 degrees Fahrenheit. How long do leftovers last in the refrigerator? 4 days is what's considered safe by the CDC. And it needs to be reheated because of bacteria buildup. So the last thing we're going to talk about is how not to hurt yourself when cutting things in the kitchen. First, you want to make sure that your cutting board is not slipping around. If you find that your cutting board is slippery and it's moving around on your kitchen surface, I recommend taking a damp cloth or a damp paper towel and putting that underneath your cutting board. That should provide you the grip you need to keep your cutting board from moving around. Second, make sure you're using the right knife for the right thing. If you're cutting bread, use a serrated blade. If you are cutting anything else, I recommend using a chef's knife. Unless you're getting into the really fancy stuff and you've been cooking for a million years, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Make sure that your knives are sharp. I highlighted this in my Ask Me Anything video, but I recommend having a cheap knife sharpener to just make sure your blades are sharp. You will have a higher chance of hurting yourself with a dull knife as opposed to a very sharp knife. Dull knife is going to require more pressure to cut through whatever you're trying to cut through. If you are insecure about your knife skills, you can also buy what's called a cutting glove. They function kind of like chainmail in the sense that they prevent you from like slicing your fingers. So I think that's it on knives. Things I recommend you keep in your kitchen year-round: fire extinguisher. Make sure that it is somewhere easily accessible and check it once every 6 months to make sure that the pressure is okay and that it is good to go. Additionally, I recommend having a good sized first aid kit that is freshly stocked with some antiseptic wipes, alcohol pads, gauze, waterproof band-aids, also some gloves. I do recommend having the following numbers somewhere, maybe on your refrigerator or in a magnet. You'll often see numbers for poison control, just in case someone ingests something that they shouldn't have and you need help figuring out what to do, or if you have questions about if something is still good in your fridge, you can call poison control and they can help you. Also, having numbers for your local utilities in case there's something wrong with a gas line or a water line or your electricity. Also, having the local numbers for your fire department and your police station. They can answer questions, but do make sure you do have your emergency numbers available in your area. Having something for your pets if they ingest something they shouldn't have. Local vet's office or an emergency vet available as well. That brings us to the end of the video. I hope that the information in this video helps you to avoid these holiday hazards in your home and your family to keep everyone healthy and safe and happy during the holidays. If you liked what you saw, smash that like button. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe and ring that bell for notifications so you're the first to know when new videos go live. Comment down below. I love to hear from you. I'm also open to questions and suggestions. Share this with someone who you think really needs to learn about these holiday hazards. And make sure to take care of yourselves. The holidays are an incredibly isolating time for a lot of people. And if you need to seek professional help, seek professional help. Do what you need to do to make sure that you are happy and healthy. Okay? And take care of someone around you. Everyone needs a little bit of love. Everyone needs a little bit of TLC this season. And that's it. So I will see you next time. Bye-bye.